So
Okay,
welcome, Naya.
thank you. I just want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Naya Bridgemohan, and I am a student ambassador, a part of this Society of Financial Education and Professional Development program. So today I chose a topic from the Money Management Essentials course that I took as my first semester of being a part of the program. Um, so is there any questions for me before I begin?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
No? Okay. All right. So I'm going to get into it. So student loans. So when you apply for college, you have the option of applying for financial aid, TAP and Pell, and lastly, student loans. Student loans is probably the last option that you want to apply for because financial aid and TAP/Pell, you don't have to pay back. Student loans, you do have to pay back. So that's probably the last option you want to go for. So then we're going to get into the 4 types of student loans. Let's change. Okay. So the first type of loan is federal direct subsidized loans. These loans are lent from the government and they are lent to students, undergraduate students with financial need. Perkin loans is also a subsidized loan for students with exceptional financial need as well. These loans accrue no interest when students are enrolled half-time in post-secondary institutions during grace periods and periods when payment is deferred. The second type of loan is federal direct unsubsidized loans, which are lent to students who don't necessarily have financial need, but they also assist undergraduates, graduate, and professional students. And these offer Parent Plus loans, and these are offered to parents, not the students, the dependent undergraduate students, and directly to graduate or professional students as Graduate Plus loans. The interest is accrued at the beginning when they are made, and they continue to accrue until paid in full. Borrowers can, but are not required to pay interest during periods of half-time enrollment, grace, and deferment, and forbearance. So you have the option to pay, but you're not required to pay. As long as you're enrolled in school or in forbearance, deferment, and grace periods. The third type of loan is federal consolidation loans. And these loans replace other federal student loan debts, but they're not non-federal ones. So for example, private loans, they don't replace those. This loan consists of one loan, one monthly payment, and one loan servicer that's chosen by you if you are thinking about doing a federal consolidation loan. They offer longer repayment periods. It could be a benefit or not a benefit, depending on how long you want to be paying your loans off. And then the last type of loan is non-federal private student loans. These are not granted by the government, and they consist of larger fees and higher interest rates than government student loans. And they come from banks, schools, and credit unions. Are there any questions for me on this slide?
Yes, this is Raquel. I do have one question. I know you mentioned that if you're enrolled half-time, you're eligible to receive a student loan. How many credits is half-time?
Half-time is, I believe, 12 credits.
I think that's full-time.
Full-time?
Yeah, full-time, I believe is 12. I think half-time for the federal government consists of 6 credits. So that's
okay.
It depends on the program, I believe, if you're versus undergrad and graduate programs.
Mm-hmm.
Some graduate programs might consider 9 credits full-time, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I've never attended have time, so I don't even know. Okay, so that's all the questions. Okay, so the next slide is going to be based on repayment options. So there are 4 different plans that you can apply for. And the first one is standard repayment plan. This plan saves you money over time, but it'll result in higher monthly payments, meaning you'll pay off the loan in the shortest time, but you'll end up paying the least amount of interest over the life of the loan. The next plan is graduated repayment plan. And this plan starts out with low monthly payments that increase every 2 years. The monthly payments will not be less than the interest that accrues between payments. The third plan is extended repayment plan, and this allows a borrower to make lower monthly payments over long periods of time, unlike the standard repayment plan. So you'll end up paying this loan off longer because your payments are lower. And the last one is income-driven repayment plans. And this plan is set according to the student's income. So it's more affordable because it's based off your adjusted gross income. And this tends to rise and fall with the borrower's income because sometimes your income could be higher one year and then lower the other year, but you have to maintain that eligibility the whole time with this plan. Okay, any questions on
Hello.
this slide?
I'm good. How are you?
Hello. Did you want to ask a question?
If you don't have any questions to ask, please mute your mic. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. And this is on deferment. Deferment temporarily delays the obligation to pay anything on your federal student loans. Subsidized loan interest does not accrue during deferment, but unsubsidized interest loan does. A few different deferments include re-enrolling in post-secondary school, fulfilling a graduate fellowship, working less than 30 hours per week, and active duty military service in response to certain situations. So deferment is just temporarily delaying payment. It could be for any of these reasons. But other than that, if you don't have any reason, you have to continue paying your loans. Are there any questions on this slide?
I have a question. Did you come across any provisions about loan forgiveness?
In the course, I didn't see anything about it. There probably was like a little mention about it. Would probably be in the next slide. But as far as like a whole topic on it, we didn't learn anything about loan forgiveness during this module.
Okay, because loan forgiveness is possible depending on the field you work in. If you make 120 consecutive payments, you may be eligible to have the remaining portion of your loan forgiven. And that's something to know depending on what field you go into. Some educational fields allow you to have your loan forgiven, military service, and there are some others, but it's something that anyone who takes out a student loan, a government student loan, would have to look at their promissory note agreement to see if they're eligible for loan forgiveness.
Okay, thank you for that helpful information. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, forbearance. So, what happened? Oh, there we go. So this exists for borrowers who can't make their scheduled monthly payments but don't qualify for deferments, which we spoke about on the last slide. This allows borrowers to either stop making payments altogether or to reduce monthly loan payments up to 12 months. The loan interest continues to accrue during forbearance. So your interest will keep building up even though you either stop making it or reduce the payments. There are two types of forbearance. They're discretionary. A borrower who has experienced financial hardship or suffering illness may apply for one, but they might not be granted. They can apply, but it's not always going to be granted by the individual who viewed it. Mandatory is for a borrower who meets 6 sets of criteria, including but not limited to service and medical or dental internships, residency programs, serving in positions for which they received national service awards, performing service to qualify for teacher loan forgiveness, and certain types of National Guard service. Any questions on this slide? Okay, I'm going to move on to the last slide. Okay, so the last slide, we're going to be talking about defaulting on federal student loans. Federal student loans borrowers become delinquent the day after they miss a payment. So it only takes 1 day for your federal student loan to become delinquent. And you want to avoid that. Loan servicers may assess late charges fees after 30 days of delinquency and report them to 3 major credit bureaus when they become 90 days delinquent. Failure to make required monthly payments for 270 days or meet other terms of federal promissory notes put borrowers in default. These consequences include balances are immediately due and payable, reported to credit bureaus and assigned to collection agencies. Government may take legal action to prohibit them from buying or selling assets. Government may subject to wage garnishment or take portion of their state or federal tax refund. So meaning like when you giving your tax returns and apply for to get your taxes back in May or April, they will take that money out of there because your loans are in default. So you want to avoid that because they're going to take all your money and you can't use it for anything else. So you have to pay off your loans and avoid defaulting on them. And the 2 last ones are you may lose ability to renew a professional license and lose eligibility for additional federal student aid, as well as deferment, forbearance, various repayment plans, and loan forgiveness. As Raquel mentioned in the last slide, loan forgiveness, you won't be eligible for that if your loan is defaulted. But that was all that was my presentation. Are there any questions on the presentation as a whole?
Yeah, well, yes, it seems as if students with loans take advantage of the deferment and forbearance options, that they would not need to go into default ever. A lot of private loans or personal loans don't allow for these various options. Either they have to pay them or they go into default. But with a student loan, there's some flexibility in how you pay it back. If you need to borrow the funds, which is necessary if you need to finish school and only have a small amount to borrow to do that. Any questions or comments from anyone else? Barring none, I thank everyone for coming out and hearing Naya's presentation. Naya, it was a great presentation and I thank you for it.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Thank you for Raquel for getting everybody to come as well.